Welcome to r/Payback. My name's Emily. I'm 27, and I've been married to my husband, Mark, 29, for just over 3 years. We have a beautiful 2-year-old daughter named Chloe, and until recently, I thought we were one of those lucky, stable couples people envy. You know, house, baby, routines that worked. Nothing fancy, just simple, predictable, comforting life. I work part-time at a local clinic, and Mark is a field technician. His hours are long, but I never minded it. I wanted him to feel supported, especially after Chloe was born. Every morning, I'd wake up early, even before the baby stirred, just to make his lunch. Sandwiches, pasta salads, fruit cups, the occasional sweet treat. I even wrote him little notes on napkins sometimes. Dumb jokes. I love you, or don't forget to hydrate. It felt good to be that kind of wife, to take care of the home while juggling part-time work and motherhood. I liked knowing he had a hot meal and a piece of home with him while he was out working in the sun. He always came back tired but grateful. Our evenings were quiet. Dinner, a bath for Chloe, maybe a TV show before bed. On weekends, we'd go to the park, visit my mom, or just hang around the house. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours, and I loved it. If you'd asked me a month ago how I felt about my marriage, I would have said, safe, loved, secure. That changed faster than I could have ever imagined. It started with Mark asking for a little more food in his lunch. "Can you maybe pack extra next time?" he said casually, pulling off his boots one evening. "One of the new guys keeps forgetting his lunch. I've been sharing a little." No big deal, right? I figured he was just being nice. Mark had always been friendly at work, so I doubled the portions. More pasta, an extra wrap, another juice pouch. I even threw in 2 forks just in case. But it didn't stop there. A few days later, he came home without his lunchbox. I asked about it, and he said, "Oh, I left it in the truck. I'll grab it tomorrow." Tomorrow turned into 3 days. When he finally brought it back, the containers were all mismatched. I found a lid I'd never seen before. Another time, the box smelled like perfume. Not my perfume. It was faint, but definitely there. Sweet, almost floral. I started to feel weird. Not suspicious exactly, just unsettled. But I told myself not to be paranoid. I just had a baby after all. Maybe I was overthinking it. Maybe it was stress. Still, it didn't stop nagging at me. He'd come home tired, sure, but somehow more distant. He didn't joke with me as much, didn't play with Chloe the same way. Just small things, but enough to notice. And yet, every morning, I kept packing those lunches. And every day, that odd pit in my stomach got a little deeper. The moment it clicked, something was really wrong happened on a random Wednesday morning. I was rinsing out his lunchbox, like I always did, when I found a note folded neatly between the napkin and a half-eaten cookie. It was written in glitter pen. Glitter pen. The handwriting was loopy, bubbly. The note said, "Thanks again. You're the sweetest heart." My heart dropped. I just stood there, water running over my hands, staring at this dumb, sparkling piece of paper that didn't belong. I waited until he got home that evening. I didn't accuse him, didn't want to sound crazy, so I asked, "Hey, did someone leave you a note in your lunch?" He barely looked up from his phone. "Huh? Oh, maybe. I don't know. Sometimes the guys joke around." I laughed awkwardly. "In glitter ink?" He shrugged. "Probably one of their girlfriends messing around or something." I wanted to believe him. God, I needed to believe him. So I laughed too and threw the note away, told myself it was nothing. But after that, I started seeing everything differently. He was more protective of his phone, would turn it face down when we were together. He stopped responding to my "love you" texts during lunch breaks, said he was too busy. Even the lunches started coming back untouched sometimes, or eaten, but with the wrong container missing. Once, the fork I packed was replaced with a different one entirely. Still, I tried to convince myself I was imagining things, that I was just being insecure, because admitting it was something worse. That would mean my happy little life was a lie. It was supposed to be a sweet surprise. Chloe and I had dropped by the bakery on the way home from my shift. I picked up Mark's favorite, strawberry shortcake in a little plastic container. Chloe was babbling in the back seat, and I thought, wouldn't it be cute if we surprised Daddy at work? He always said seeing her brightened his day. So I drove across town, baby in one arm, dessert in the other. Mark worked at a local warehouse with a small crew. I parked across the street, planning to wait outside the fenced lunch area where employees usually sat. But as I got closer, I froze. There he was, sitting at the far picnic table, laughing. Not just with anyone, with a woman. She looked maybe mid-20s, long dark hair tied up in a bun, those oversized sunglasses perched on her head. She was eating from my container, the exact one I packed that morning. My salad, my fork, my napkin. Mark had the second container, the one with leftovers I added last minute because he said he was still hungry lately. I didn't move, just stood there like a ghost, hidden behind the shrubs, staring at this scene I wasn't meant to see. She leaned in, touched his arm, said something that made him grin. My baby let out a small whimper. I pulled her close, rocked her gently. She didn't know. She just wanted to see her daddy. But I turned around. I didn't say a word. I didn't throw the dessert, didn't scream or confront. I just walked back to the car, strapped Chloe in, and drove away with a quiet, hollow ache spreading through my chest. On the way home, I stopped for gas and cried silently in the bathroom stall. The kind of cry where your ribs hurt, where your throat burns from holding back sound. My hands shook the whole drive home. It wasn't just the betrayal. It was the realization that I had been packing food for someone else's lunch date, that I had been feeding their little romance without even knowing it. That was the moment I stopped being sad. I started planning. The moment I got home, I knew what I had to do. Chloe was already asleep in her car seat, cheeks rosy from the ride. I carried her inside, kissed her forehead, and placed her gently in her crib. Then I got to work. I printed the photos I'd taken. Just 2, but enough. Him and her laughing, the containers, the closeness. I placed them on the kitchen counter with a note I wrote in 10 minutes, but had been thinking about for hours. I didn't scream. I didn't accuse. I just wrote, "You've made your choices. Now I'm making mine. You have 7 days to move out. My mom owns this house. It was gifted to me before we married. You can contact her to arrange visits with Chloe. I want no direct contact. This is done." I packed essentials, clothes, diapers, my documents, Chloe's health files, and a few toys. I left the wedding photos hanging, but took my rings off and placed them beside the letter. By 6 p.m., I was at my sister's house. She hugged me before I could say a word. Her husband helped bring our things in, no questions asked. Mark didn't text me until nearly 8 p.m., his usual "what's for dinner" message, then a call, then 3 more. I ignored them all. He must have gotten home by 9 p.m. That's when the real storm began. Calls, voicemails, crying, yelling, silence. Then another message. "Where's Chloe? What is this? Are you serious?" Yes, I was serious. For the first time in years, I wasn't just a wife. I was a woman drawing a line. I didn't speak to Mark for 2 full days. He tried everything. Texts, emails, calls from unknown numbers, even showing up at my sister's house. My brother-in-law had to tell him to leave or they'd call the cops. Finally, I agreed to meet him. Not alone, at a diner with my mom nearby in case it went bad. He showed up looking like he hadn't slept in days. His eyes were red, clothes wrinkled, hair a mess. He didn't start with an apology. He started with our daughter. "I miss Chloe," he whispered, voice breaking. I didn't think it would get to this point. I didn't respond, just looked at him, waiting. "She doesn't mean anything to me," he said. "It was just talking. She was going through stuff. I was lonely. It wasn't like that." I raised my eyebrow. "She ate your lunch every day, my lunch." His shoulders dropped. "It was stupid," he muttered. "I didn't mean to hurt you. I was just tired. Tired of routine, work, bills, you always being tired too. The baby crying, everything felt heavy. She was just easy, no baggage." He looked up at me. "But she's not you." That should have hurt, but it didn't. It disgusted me. I wasn't going to compete with easy. He reached for my hand. "Please, I want my family back. Chloe needs her dad." I pulled my hand away. "She has a dad, you, but she doesn't need to see you treat her mom like this." He started to cry again, real ugly sobs this time. I stayed calm. "You can see Chloe. My mom will arrange it. You'll never be kept from her. But me? We're done." For once, he didn't argue. I walked out, and I didn't look back. Things got worse before they got better. Not long after I cut contact with Mark, the other woman made her presence impossible to ignore. Through some unexpected sources, I found out she was engaged to another man, someone she was supposed to marry to gain residency. But because of her relationship with Mark, her fiancé found out and broke off the engagement. Her visa was in trouble, but that didn't stop her. She started showing up around my neighborhood. At first, it was little things. My tire slashed, the word homewrecker scratched across my car window in messy letters. Then, more direct attacks, scribbled notes on my front door, strange calls from blocked numbers. She flooded my phone with spam texts and made harassing calls from different numbers after I blocked them all. Threats, too. Vile words like, "I'll ruin your life," and "You'll pay for this." I was terrified, but knew I had to stay calm. I documented everything. Photos of the vandalism, recordings of the calls, screenshots of texts. I called the police multiple times, but without catching her in the act, their hands were tied. They suggested cameras and patrols, but no real protection. I even contacted a lawyer, hoping to find a way to stop her legally before it spiraled further out of control. Meanwhile, the harassment didn't stop. It was as if she wanted to remind me every day that I was the other woman in this twisted triangle, even though she was the one who stepped into our marriage. It was a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. Desperate, I started taking real steps to protect myself and Chloe. My mom and stepdad came to stay with us for a while. They insisted on installing security cameras around the house. I set up motion alerts on my phone so any movement near the windows or doors would immediately notify me. When one camera caught her lurking near our kitchen window, I called the police. They arrived quickly and caught her trespassing. I gave the footage to my lawyer, who helped me file for a restraining order. He also worked on reporting her visa violations to immigration authorities, hoping that would remove her from the country legally. I felt a bit safer knowing there was a legal barrier between her and me, but the constant tension never left. My parents have been a rock through all of this. They offered to keep Chloe overnight whenever I needed a break, and even stored my car at their house so it wouldn't be damaged. Having them close reminded me I wasn't alone, even when it felt like the world was against me. The stress took a heavy toll. I began losing hair in clumps. My body ached in ways I couldn't explain. But what worried me most was my milk supply. Breastfeeding Chloe had been one of the few bright spots in this dark time. But as the anxiety grew, my milk started drying up. Doctors warned me stress directly affects supply. My mom told me to switch to formula to reduce my stress, but with the nationwide shortage, I dreaded the thought. Still, I knew I had to do what was best for Chloe. Some days, I felt like I was drowning, mentally exhausted, physically drained, and emotionally raw, but I held on for her. Because no matter what, she deserved a safe, happy life, and I was going to fight every day to give that to her. One evening, my phone buzzed with a motion alert from one of the security cameras. Heart pounding, I opened the live feed. There she was, standing just outside my kitchen window, looking around suspiciously, her face clearly visible in the night light. I immediately called the police. They arrived within minutes and caught her right there on my property. The officers arrested her for trespassing, and I handed over the footage as evidence. This was the break I needed. My lawyer used the video to file an immigration report against her. It showed not only that she was breaking the law by being in my home's vicinity without permission, but also supported the claim she was violating visa terms by working illegally. Finally, I felt like the law was on my side. For the first time since this nightmare began, there was hope that this chaos could end. I never expected my story to blow up the way it did online. One day, I received a private message from a man who identified himself as the woman's fiancé. He had found my Reddit post and recognized the details immediately. He told me he had reported her for overstaying her visa and for working illegally. Within weeks, the woman was fired from her job, along with several others involved, including Mark. The news spread through the community, and people started reaching out to offer support. For the first time, I began to feel like I was regaining control of my life. The harassment stopped. The threats disappeared. I wasn't just a victim anymore. I was someone who fought back and won. Months later, I learned Mark was still unfaithful, jobless, and trying to manipulate everyone around him. He came to see Chloe only when my mom was there, and even then, I asked him to leave before I arrived. I couldn't stand the thought of him near my daughter. Not now, not ever. The man I married no longer existed. I was disgusted by who he had become, and I knew that keeping him in our lives would only bring pain. This journey was brutal, but it taught me more than I ever expected. I learned the hard way that love isn't enough when trust is broken. I realized my strength, my worth, and my limits. Most importantly, I understood that protecting my child meant protecting myself first. I was done living in fear. If there's one thing I want to share, it's this: trust your instincts. When something feels wrong, don't ignore it. Speak up, protect yourself, and don't let anyone convince you otherwise. I'm still healing, still learning how to be whole again. But every day, I focus on my daughter and myself, our safety, our happiness. This story isn't just about pain, it's about survival and reclaiming your life. To anyone going through something similar, you're stronger than you know. Hold on, fight back, and believe that better days are coming, because they are. That wraps up today's episode of r/payback. If you enjoyed the ride, don't forget to subscribe for more epic stories.